So they've opened with nice steady e4. I understand that. They brought the knight out. Bishop's come out to attacking the knight. I'm assuming it's not going to take, and so I'm going to be thinking in my head, well, what was the point in bringing the bishop out if it's not going to take? But that's just me preempting. It's higher end of the scale here, 29-28, and it's just doing a small pawn push here, obviously maybe to stop the knight from jumping up and stuff like that. But again, sitting waiting type stuff. So they've gone for a fianchetto thing here, obviously looking to get the bishop here. Again, it's kind of sitting waiting, it's not really proactive in any sense. So they've brought the bishop through. Bearing in mind the king hasn't got castled yet. This king has not got any space for castling at the minute, and they've pushed the pawn down in the center just to maybe stop this pawn from pushing, but also maybe to open up the bishop a little bit, give it some space. It's all basic stuff at this moment in time, and as I mentioned, this bishop has come out here, it's attacking the knight, it's not even taken the knight off the board, it's not gone for any doubling of the pawns or anything like that. So again, is it a waste of energy actually just bringing it out there in the first place? So then they do a little pawn push here, so let's sit in waiting. It's now opening up the white square bishop, but it's still keeping the dark square bishop blocked. Yeah, so the white square bishop's probably just coming to attack the knight, x-raying through, all basic stuff. But again, it's a sitting waiting game, nothing dynamic about any of this type of play. This bishop is biting on granite at the minute, it's just blocked in, not got castled yet. Now they've castled. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward, and obviously maybe the knight's going to be jumping out and opening itself up. I don't think there's going to be an attack on the center just yet because he's got two rhino heads here, so it's probably going to be pushing this pawn to do something like that. All basic stuff at this moment in time. And are they fianchettoing to get the bishop out, or is their knight getting into the game? Probably looking tasty to come and attack this pawn here. Again, nothing magical, and it does bring the knight out, so it's just attacking the pawn. Simple stuff, straightforward stuff. Yep, it's that initial movements of the opening where they just sit back and wait for the opponent to do something, which I think is a crucial waste of time. So now they're going to push the pawn as they've done. Yeah, so it looks like they're going to be challenging the rhino heads here. Yep, so basically this is all simple stuff. So basically just going to be hitting here, and it's going to be looking to get some sort of break in here at some point. And this poor knight at this minute is going to struggle, but maybe they're just going to look to get the knight here once they've taken these pawns. And as we mentioned, this bishop hasn't taken this knight off the board yet. It's just sat there, just x-raying through to the king. It's doing nothing. Waste of time bringing it out there in the first place. They bring their bishop through, as we mentioned. Yeah, all basic stuff. It's got x-ray through to our queen. Simple again. And they're just seeing it off. A small piece attacking a higher piece. Usually can't be wrong. The bishop moves. And as we've mentioned, it's just going to be hitting the center here. Nothing too extravagant at all in any way, shape. They're just waiting for people to extend. Now he's taking time to do that. He's still got his knight on the back. So the capture, so we did mention all of this, and they didn't take back. Let me just break that down and see what's happening there. So takes, and it's even Stevens didn't want to take back. For what reason? Because if it did take, then the knight would take, and then it would be on the knight here. Queen could always come and protect anyway, couldn't it? Alright, so what's that being, them being a bit fancy and arty, or what? Let me see. So they moved the knight. I think they could have taken, still. I don't think it would have been that bad. I think they could have taken. That part was that looked a bit too arty for me. Because we're not going to be taking, because the bishop is going to be taking the queen off the board. So I don't see why that was not taken. Is there anything else? I mean, the gauge bar's kind of on our side in a sense, in that, well, why couldn't you just take? too arty. That was a move where I'm thinking, I don't really understand what that is. Yep. Obviously they know, but it's made it worse for them doing this fancy knight move, and it's blocking the queen and everything. Could have just simply taken. So a smaller piece attacks a high piece, that makes sense, it's all pretty straightforward stuff. The bishop moves out of the way, it's now attacking the pawn, the rook is defending at the minute. And the pawn captures, and it's one or two things. I mean, it does capture, we could just push the pawn, but I don't know if that's much of a muchness really. Would send it to somewhere odd, wouldn't it? If he comes here, it's causing him a bit of trouble. And maybe that was okay. But at least it's active. It's doing something. So they capture back with the pawn. Maybe they should have caught back with the knight. I don't know. And now they're taking the knight. It's got an isolated pawn in the center of the board type thing. So maybe a plus there in terms of they've got an isolated pawn. That's only a minor thing, but just looking at any potential positives for that bishop staying there forever and a day. Bishop takes now because it's got like a 2-on-1 with the knight protecting. So it's +1 at this moment in time. All pretty straightforward stuff. Understand everything that white has played at this moment in time. The only query so far was around the bishop move, keeping it hanging there for so long, and then keeping this knight on the back, doing this little pawn push type thing to get the pawn breaks up in there. All a bit slow. If they were playing somebody who was a bit more dynamic in terms of attacking against them, I would like to see how they played against that type of process. Because this sitting waiting stuff just allows people to just, it makes it look good. It makes it look like you're doing something complicated, because you're just shuffling your pieces around using the top tier element within our answer process of position. Yeah, so positioning, positioning, positioning. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with positioning, but it's really slow, and especially if lower rated players who are less experienced, I would say, I won't say lower rated, people who are less experienced at chess, and if they're copying that type of thing, thinking, that's the way that I need to play. You have to learn how to attack, you have to learn how to counter, you have to learn how to have these positions in order to be able to take pieces off the board, capture pieces correctly, have a good follow-on type process for defending when you've done your attacks. If you just constantly practice not doing anything in the opening and just sitting waiting for the opponent to actually attack, if you are playing somebody who is slightly more aggressive than yourself, you're going to fall foul. You're not going to be able to develop your pieces because you've not allowed yourself any space. So the opponent is managing the space. As you can see now, white is starting to manage space because he's now actually attacking. He's going forward. As you can see, now black is looking a little bit jammed in. Well, his pieces are just on the back, don't look like they're moving forward. So the bishop moves back. Now let me just have a look at this. Okay, right, so they've castled and the bishop moves back. Castle, bishop doesn't want to be taken. Maybe there's something else happening. Is there anything else? Nothing to do with this knight moving out at all in any way, shape. None of this business, maybe. Something like that. Because I'm concerned this knight has not been developed. And a new person looking at this, to be like, oh, you're supposed to develop all your pieces. But like we said, and like you know, these rules are there to be broken. And when you're watching these higher rated players playing, all the rules go out of the window, and they'll just do whatever they want to do at any given moment, any given time. And it's not to say that it's 100% proof what they're doing. If they're sacrificing the piece, it doesn't mean it's perfect, because there's always a good response to dealing with a sacrificed piece. Positions on the board is always a better way of finding a better position on the board. They do not have the complete answer to chess in any way, shape or form. So when the rules are being broken, then you can guarantee that really and truly that rule has been broken, but it's created a weakness of type against them. So don't be fooled by thinking, oh, they're not developing their pieces, so I'm not going to develop mine. I'm not going to castle. I'm going to leave my king open to the wind because I see high-rated players doing it. So looking at these games, take it with a pinch of salt. Don't take anything away, but that is bad. When you're looking at games, you've got to really say, well, I'm not too sure that that was a good move. You know, when it's not a good move, it's not a good move. Yeah, don't be fooled by the Emperor's new clothes. So they've brought the bishop back here, and again, I don't think that they didn't need to move it because it wasn't under threat at this point in time. There was nothing x-raying through to it. Only piece that could take it is the knight, but I don't really see any problems with that. So he could have developed the knight out, yeah, and got a bit more active maybe with that. But anyway, so it looks like the queens are coming off the board. Is he going for the exchange, or is he going to do some fancy dancing now with the queen? And he's not doing any fancy dancing. He's finally developed the knight. Yeah, so the knight's not coming back, obviously. He's linked up the rooks, so one of the rooks will take if the queen goes for a capture. So pretty straightforward stuff. The knight is attacking this pawn and the bishop is attacking this pawn. The knight is happily defending the pawn and the rook is defending the pawn at the minute. So looking at that continuation, the rook is eyeing up the bishop, which potentially, if the queen goes, won't have any protection on. But how would they get rid of this pawn? So the queen's doing some fancy dancing stuff. So he's now attacking the knight because the knight has got no protection on it. Queen comes to protect. All simple, straightforward stuff. Nothing magical. Only issue is there's an x-ray through from the bishop onto the queen. The knight jumps away, but I'm not looking at what the black player's doing. I'm just having a look at what the white player's doing. But let's see, the knight's moved away and maybe looking space for the pawn. Is he looking to, but the knight will take it. Is he looking to, and then the bishop can take maybe. Don't know. Right, so the rook's now looking for owning the open file. Oh, that's like a bless. That's basics of chess. Rooks like to manage the open files if they can. But what I think they're going to do is they're probably just going to drop the rook here and look to protect. And then maybe get the rook here. So the rook's saying, no, I'm not having any of that. And now the knight has moved. It's attacking the bishop. It's attacking the pawn, which would have a nice fork on this, this, and this. So again, simple chess, straightforward. I understand what that movement is. Answer to chess process, you know, position, attacks. Yeah, the early part was a bit shabby because of the positioning, but at least we understand that is a top tier move in terms of how you do your answer to chess. So if you're ever looking at high rated players and you're then thinking about your own answer to chess and you're thinking, well, I'm always attacking people, I'm attacking stuff in my opening, and they're not, they're just sitting back waiting. Yeah, I would wait for a bit to get an understanding as to, you know, what you're currently doing, attacking, yeah, taking pieces off the board, working your pieces together as a team, working your own strategies for counter-attacking, defending, etc. Get used to that type of atmosphere first, and then if you want to sit back and be lazy and just say, well, okay, I'll sit and wait for them to do stuff, so I'm just going to position my pieces, you can try and practice that. But at the end of the day, to me, you're losing a lot of tempo, especially if you're going to play somebody who is slightly more aggressive than yourself. So you're going to be behind in terms of developing your pieces. That's all I'm saying. So the rook takes, and the rook is still owning the file. And the bishop now has got a nice little x-ray through to this pawn, this knight here. He's got the queen on there as well, so he's going to have a 2-on-1. Bishop, thankfully, is defending the knight at the moment. So it can take now, and it's on the rook. And now they can move the knights. And it's simply capturing pieces. But I don't know if that was a good move. Sometimes greedy munching is not always the key thing, is it? Because this queen is going to be taking this pawn. Could have maybe pushed this pawn up first, and maybe the rook comes and defends the pawn. but sometimes rushing to take pawns is not the key thing. So he does take, he's on the knight, so that's potentially what they were planning to do, but the knight can move. It's getting closer in towards their king area. It's also attacking the pawn here, so it's holding the queen to ransom for a bit. Now the king's moved up. The king's moved up to protect the pawn because the knight is hitting the pawn. Again, simple, straightforward chess. Because the knight is attacking a piece, the king is defending. Nothing too arty at this moment in time. As I mentioned, the only part that white has done in terms of being sitting back waiting was the early part. And a slight moment of advantage in terms of tempo is giving them the slightest advantage here in this game because they started to attack. Queen does take the pawn. Again, greedy munching queens taking pawns sometimes doesn't improve your position. He is attacking their knight, just like when their queen attacked and it was attacking their knight. So it does have a side of attacking. But does it improve their position? The knight comes round and attacks the queen. It's also defending the pawn. Now he's got put himself in an X-ray through from the rook, although the rook doesn't have any defense at this moment in time. Bishop's moving. What does the bishop want to do? The bishop looks like it's moved for some reason. What's it moved for? Is it protecting this pawn like coming down here at some point? What realistically was that bishop move all about? 1 second, because is the pawn on it? Yeah, the pawn's on it, so that's why it's moved. Yeah, so it's moved, and then they're putting a check on the bishop. And now he's putting like a 2-on-1 on the knight, but there's nothing behind the knight, so the knight can move, maybe to here, obviously. Queen's going to be getting the pawn, but does it improve their position towards their king? Because their king is looking a little bit airy, maybe touching the knight with one of these. And if we have a look, the time is running down big style as well, 29 seconds, so we're talking time scramble type situation here. So the knight does move, but the answer to chess currently is favouring the white pieces for now, because he does have pieces facing the king. How he gets there is not quite clear yet. Probably jostling for the queen to come here to just keep leaning on. And the queen grabs another pawn. The greedy munching queen. Probably need to be steady with the greedy munching queens, especially if your king is under threat. So the knight moves and it's attacking the queen now. There's potential for coming in here, but maybe they're not going to do that because the knight is there. But if they hit the knight and get the knight away, probably coming here, then putting like a 2-on-1 on this situation. So the queen's gone right back. So now they've gone into panic mode. They've taken up all these pawns, but now it looks like their position, they're not working their pieces together as a team. And it's all because of that early part where white started to attacking and developing their pieces and moving forward. This sitting waiting stuff really needs to be knocked on the head. Any beginners out there watching higher rated players doing this sort of stuff really need to be very careful if you're looking at improving your own game and having a bit more fun with your game. Stay away from those sitting waiting moves and play chess. Yeah, get the pieces moving forward, get them working together as a team, get a bit of attacking going, disturb the opponent's momentum going forward, stop them from doing things, prevent their castling if you can, prevent movements of their pieces, lock them down, and you'll have a more interesting game and you'll get it's more character building that way, rather than sitting waiting and jostling around doing position and nothing else for the early part of the game. By then it's too late, the opponent's all over you like a bad rash, a bit like what's happening in this game. So it looks like they're looking to get the pawn pushed up and hit this square, and it looks like it would be all over. Queen's now coming to defend the pawn, but I think they're going to struggle with that one. Bishop's coming through now. It's basically attacking this pawn, which is the 2-on-1, which is a nice position for them to have. Compound pressure onto the area. So now the rook is having to defend. Like I mentioned earlier, all of this defense work that black's having to do now really is because of the sitting back waiting in the opening. The opening is key. You can't sit and wait. I don't care what level you're at. 2900 looks impressive, but it only works against people who allow you to do that sort of thing. So if they were playing like a 1300, they would just sit back and wait and let the 1300 overextend, because that's what they're practicing. They want to take pieces off the board, bang, 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 and then they'll just jump through the loopholes that you create. If a 1300 is playing like a 2900, I would suggest, well, yeah, play your game, but be very mindful that all they're doing is sitting waiting for you. So you just be a bit more careful about what pieces you're pushing forward. Keep them working together as a team tightly. Don't overextend in a way. If they're forcing you to overextend, potentially drop back, but find a better improved position that gives them something to think about and makes them have to do something. So they did take, and at that point the opponent, black, resigned, and that's a 29-28, and that does not look that much different to any lower rated 1100, 1200, 1300, etc. game that I've reviewed. The answer to chess is the principles and the concepts and the ideas, the strategies, the planning that goes into trying to utilize better chess moves.